What comes to mind when I say the word space? Do you think about the thousands of satellites orbiting the Earth? Do you envision Earth's single moon? Or do you go beyond that and visualize our solar system? Throughout history, space has held many different meanings and been seen through a variety of frames. Only until recent history do we see a drastic change in the way humans view and think about space, which can be mostly attributed to technological advancement. Kick-started by the space race in the late 1950s, spaceflight saw a huge boom in military, explorative, and utilitarian use. After the Cold War had ended and the major lunar missions had been completed, space largely transitioned from a place of fear and exploration of the unknown to a place of utility and commercialization. Among the new commercial sectors looking to utilize space for profit, such as space tourism, space mining seems to be the most profitable field and stands out as a great example of the transition in the way humans think of space.
She packed my bags last night, pre-flight, 0 hour, 9 a.m.
Hi, my name's Bob Hopman. I'd like to discuss space mining with you, what's been done in this relatively new field, what hasn't been done, and how it's changing our perspective on space and the objects within. So, what sorts of things can we attribute this change in perspective to? First off, space was originally seen as a location for the extension of military power. The development of the German V-2 rocket led to a massive boost in the money and time spent on spaceflight by various national governments, namely the United States and Russia. Citizens had no choice but to look up and imagine what sort of terrible weapon could be in space. In the present day, space is used mostly for communications and exploration, and the majority of people know that. Something else to consider here is that spaceflight happened very rarely in the space race era. Today we see spaceflight occur regularly for things like launching new communication satellites or resupplying the International Space Station. We're able to travel to space more often because of cheaper and safer technologies, most of which we have the commercial sector to thank for. Many national space programs have partnered with private sector spaceflight companies to drive innovation forward and stave off lowering budgets. For example, NASA has been working with SpaceX, who has been helping out with missions to and from the International Space Station. Lastly, I think it's important to include the proliferation of space into popular culture and media, and how this affects our way of thinking. Whether it's children's toys, cartoons, or movies, space has become less of a place of fear and more a place of wonder in the eyes of humans that have been around these sorts of media that depict space to be a safe and friendly place. This shift in thinking has several effects, namely the application of traditional capitalist ideologies to space and the objects within. Easier, cheaper spaceflight and a shift in the public's thinking of space has allowed for capitalist regimes to shift their interest from earthly resource extraction to asteroids and planets. These astral bodies do not share the same sort of landlocked characteristics, so to speak, as traditional resources. Raw materials, such as oil and metal, carry with them the burden of being in a location or on a piece of land that can be, or already is, controlled by some sort of government or group of people. This land has most likely had human contact prior to resource extraction as well. Asteroids have neither of these issues, being both free from control of earthly organizations and untouched by any sort of life, or so we assume. In addition to those intrinsic values we just discussed, the amount of revenue to be made off of mining an asteroid is hard to ignore. While an asteroid mining mission would cost an astronomical amount, pun intended, there is still a margin for profit. Due to the variation in size of asteroids, the profit to be made per asteroid varies greatly, going from a few million to multiple trillions of dollars. This amount of profit is possible because of the mineral makeup of asteroids. Some contain vast quantities of rare metals such as platinum and tungsten. More importantly is the amount of water that can be found in these objects. Water is essential for human life in space, keeping spacefaring humans alive and being a key ingredient in making fuel for space vehicles mid-flight. There is one company so far, named Planetary Resources Incorporated, that hopes to capture the profit and utility of asteroids, and has shown a large amount of capital investment into space mining. They promise to begin prospecting for near-Earth asteroids using satellites by the late 2010s. Around the time of this company's creation, the bill H.R. 2262 was passed and became U.S. law. This bill states that any United States citizen engaged in the commercial recovery of a space resource has the right to possess, own, transport, and sell said resource. Interestingly, this bill was heavily endorsed by several governmental officials in Washington, the state that Planetary Resources is located, and Texas and Florida, where most American space launches occur from, the Kennedy and Johnson spaceflight centers. Aside from this piece of legislation and a few international treaties in the late 90s, there has been little to no national or international dialogue on the control of space resources. I believe that without international agreements of regulation and safety on space mining, capitalism will forge ahead in a manner that may cause international dispute or human and environmental safety issues back here on Earth. Whether or not these more robust international agreements occur, the fact that space mining even exists and has found interest in the minds of many in the commercial spaceflight sector is a testament to the fact that space, instead of being a place that we dared to enter, is a place we now dream of going to.